don't believe the hype. If you're reading stuff online that this is the last unexplored asset class and you're going to buy these parks at 8 caps and you're going to hit a home run off market, it's like, that's not what I'm seeing. I'm out there chasing deals all the time. Most of my deals are off market and we are not picking them up cheap. We are paying a premium to buy these assets because they're in limited supply. They're going to perform great. We have a long-term thesis. Demographic trends support what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And so we're paying a premium to buy these assets, but it's not like it was 20 years ago.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to Weiss Advice. I'm your host, as always, Yona Weiss, and with me today, I am joined by Daniel Weisfield of Three Pillar Communities. How are you doing today, Daniel?
Yona, I feel like I finally arrived to be on the Weiss Advice podcast. I've made it. Thank you for having me on.
You made it. Your claim to fame in the future. If anyone ever asks you what you've done in this life, I was on the Weiss Advice podcast.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Well,
it's basically number one, everything else number two, and then we'll talk about the rest third.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's just give a little bit of context. Obviously, Daniel's being extremely facetious and humble because he is, over the past several years, they've created an incredible company that owns manufactured housing communities, affordable housing across the Pacific Northwest and, other states, kind of expanding across the country. Currently, 33 communities in 5 states, over 8,000 residents total. So you guys have scaled up to the point where you are in the top 50 of manufactured housing communities, companies in the United States, which is pretty incredible for, a couple of guys from there.
I feel fortunate. I didn't think we'd grow this fast. I feel really lucky.
It's incredible. It really is. And it's not like you guys have stopped at any point whatsoever. You just continue to scale.
Well, it's funny. It's the snowball effect. Once you start rolling, the speed picks up and we're accelerating. And so I feel like we put in a lot of really long hours, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and we're starting to see the results of that. It's creating a really kind of virtuous cycle.
It's incredible. Like you said, it's been a relatively short period of time. I mean, 3-4 years altogether since you guys have started this. Where did that come from? I mean, did it come out of the blue? I mean, did you have real estate experience before that? Did you grew up around it? Like, how did you decide to form this partnership?
Yeah. So I do have family background. I can't say that I just had the light bulb moment one day to say mobile home parks. I wasn't that smart. I grew up around it. My grandfather was born on a chicken farm in Israel. So was my mom. And they immigrated to the US in 1968. And, my grandfather always said they came with $50 and a suitcase and my 2 little girls, and he had to make a buck. So he started buying wrecked cars in Seattle and fixing them in his backyard and selling them in the classified ads. And he eventually saved up enough money to open a garage, and eventually he bought a mobile home park. That was about 35 years ago. So I grew up as a kid. I'd go in the summer, I'd help him at the body shop, buff out a bumper, and then we'd go to the mobile home park, take out the trash and, mow the lawn. So that was my life as a kid. And, my grandfather saved money from the park, bought another one. Save more money, bought another one. So I saw the example of my family who came here with nothing and built real, substantial generational wealth by owning these assets. Mm-hmm. And I kind of planted the seed. Right. And it's not what I thought I wanted to do when I grew up. So I guess you could say I'm not the typical trailer park guy. I had a couple of fancy degrees from Yale University, and I worked as a U.S. diplomat, and I worked at McKinsey doing fancy management consulting. So I did a bunch of stuff. It's about 4 years ago that I realized that the family business, mobile home parks, is actually a way to do something really important in society, to provide high quality, affordable housing, and to make a great return for our investors. So that's why I made the jump.
That's great. Yeah, and it's not your typical path. I mean, obviously, if you had that background and you had the examples growing up with someone as incredible as your grandfather's example that you just mentioned, but taking a little bit of a long roundabout way of getting back to that, typically your mobile home park owners aren't, with Yale law degrees and these kind of things, right?
I'm so glad I found it. I will tell you very honestly, before I came to this, I was always wondering, am I doing the right thing with my life? Every job I had, I'm like, why am I doing this? Is it meaningful? What's next? Is it my full potential? And, I always had those doubts in every job up until I found this. And now I feel so blessed that like I found the thing.
Wow.
I found the thing. Like our product is to create high quality, affordable communities that normal people can live in and raise their families with dignity, right? My job is to provide safe, reliable communities at an affordable price. I feel so good about what we're manifesting in the world. And I'm an entrepreneur building a company according to my own vision.
Right.
And the wealth piece is there, right?
Yeah.
If as long as we keep doing what we're doing and we deliver on our promises, like I'm confident we'll build long-term wealth.
Yeah.
So it checks all these boxes for me. And it's like, I have no more existential doubts. I feel so grateful that I found this path.
That's amazing. A lot of people don't even, come to that point of realization. And I think that itself is very telling about, the type of person that you are. But a lot of people just kind of go through life and think, well, why am I doing this? People don't even wake up to ask that question most of the time. Like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Just kind of subsisting and trying to get through, make it a good day. Wow. That's incredible. Let me ask you kind of a little bit, digging deep into the mobile home park, manufactured housing communities. I know there are two different terms that are used. And is there some sort of, what is the proper way of referring to this? Are they two different things entirely? Because sometimes I hear, mobile home parks. Sometimes I hear manufactured housing communities, MHC, MHP. And I'm wondering if it's just two different things, distinctions, or is it more, the proper way? Enlighten me.
Yeah, good. So let me throw in two more terms to further muddy the waters, and then we'll try and clarify the waters. Perfect. So let me also throw in RV park and trailer park.
Yes, trailer
park.
Right,
so we've got RV park, trailer park, mobile home park, manufactured housing community.
Yes.
What are we talking about, Yona? I would say trailer park is considered a derogatory term that we don't use in our industry anymore. And it refers to a stigmatized product.
Yeah.
Right? I would say the more polite way to refer to that is mobile home park. And mobile home park is typically referring to a single wide or a double wide home that was built in a factory and trucked to a park, installed on a semi-permanent basis. It's not easy to, you can't put a key in the ignition and move it around. It's a single wide or a double wide. It's installed. Historically, it was called a trailer, and then it was called a mobile home. So that's a mobile home park. Now, manufactured housing community can refer to that same product if you're trying to elevate it, or manufactured housing community can refer to what I would call kind of mobile home park 2.0, which is higher quality manufactured homes built in the last 20 years, which look like a home you'd see in a subdivision, right? They have a pitched roof, composite shingles, wood siding, granite countertops, stainless steel appliances. These are beautiful homes. And so we typically refer to this newer wave as manufactured homes. So I've covered three now. The fourth category is RV park. That's something that drives down the road, right? It's a motorhome, it's a trailer, you tow it behind you, and that's a different park.
Got you. Okay. That gives a lot of clarity to the subject. And so you guys are focused obviously on the more typical, I would assume, the manufactured housing, or what is it?
We do all four.
You do all four. We do trailer parks.
We do all four. We will buy a rough park that sometimes we say, we're buying this. This is a trailer park. And we're going to turn this trailer park into a mobile home park that people are proud to live in.
Got you.
Right. So we will sometimes pay a premium for a Class A manufactured housing community with a pool and a clubhouse and a tennis court and all sorts of amenities, and we'll pay a premium for that deal if we believe in the deal.
Gotcha. And there's a huge percentage of the population that in the United States that lives in these communities, across all. Yet, nevertheless, they still, in my eyes, and from what I've seen, obviously there's a certain stigma to these type of communities. You talk about trailer parks, which definitely has a derogatory reference. How do you go about changing that point of view or that stigma, or to the wider, broader world out there? Yeah.
So first of all, historically, this has been the most stigmatized real estate asset class that exists, right? Like now it's kind of cool. That's why you're having me on the podcast, right? Because everyone wants to learn about mobile home parks now because it's like the hot thing. But when my grandfather would tell people he did mobile home parks, people looked at him like he smells, right? Like you do what? Mobile home parks, trailer parks. So it has been the most stigmatized form of housing, perpetuated by the media and the stories we read about meth labs and pit bulls and every other association you have with the trailer park. And I would say that is changing rapidly. And it depends very much on who's managing the park and what market you're in.
Mm-hmm.
So in our markets, I grew up in California. We focus on the Western US,
Right.
California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Arizona. In our markets, there was tons of demand for affordable housing and not enough supply, right? So you have all, the people we serve are working class families. We're not talking about people at the bottom end of the economic spectrum. We're not talking about someone who just got out of prison or whatever other stereotype you have.
Mm-hmm.
We might be talking about someone who's a nurse or a teacher and can't afford an $800,000 single family starter home in the Bay Area. So they live in a mobile home and are parking Modesto for $120,000 and they commute to their work,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we have a lot of working families. You also have a lot of seniors who have downsized. They've sold the single family home. They want to move into a community with like-minded seniors with less space. So I think perceptions are changing. But what it comes down to is the management. We still see a lot of slumlords.
Yeah.
And sometimes those are unsophisticated mom and pop slumlords, and sometimes those are private equity slumlords. Hate to say it, big names. So slumlords can wear different masks. And I think we think a lot about what is our duty as a landlord, right? We have a duty to our investors to make money, and we have a duty to our residents, providing a community for them to live in. And we weigh those duties and make decisions about how we operate.
Amazing. What are some of the things that you do to make, make communities more livable or more, attractive to potential residents or current residents?
Yeah. I'm glad you asked. This is my passion project.
Right. I know.
I'll give you a couple examples. Foothills Mobile Home Park outside Chico, California. We bought that deal 3 or 4 years ago. The market saw that as a Class C trailer park, kind of tertiary location. It's on septic and well. Those private utilities, which people see as a risk. A lot of older single wide homes. And we said, hey, let's take the defect and turn it into a feature. So it's on septic, it's on well, it's got a bunch of vacant land. Let's build a solar power plant and turn this into an eco community where we're producing our own water, putting it back into the earth through the septic system and producing our own energy. And so we built a $1.2 million solar power plant at that park to generate electricity for the residents. A huge win for our investors with the depreciation, the federal tax credit, raising NOI by producing our own power. And we created a green community for residents. That's super exciting. And we have other parks that are more urban.
Mm-hmm.
We bought a park outside Seattle last year, all working class families, great families. I met them. I did a meeting with everyone and said, I spoke in Spanish and English. I spoke both languages. And I said, this park has been neglected by the prior owner. He didn't pave the roads, broken down street lights, trash in the streets. That's not where you want to raise your families. Yeah. Let's make a partnership. We're going to invest on our side. We're going to pave the roads. We're going to put up new lighting, new signage, community garden. We're going to make this a place you're proud to live in. It's a partnership. You're going to do your part to improve your home lawn, pick up the trash, paint your house, mow your lawn. And when we do that, our real estate value is going to go up and your home value is going to go up. It's going to benefit everybody.
Got you. And so typically the residents own their own homes. I know there is a distinction there. There's they're both. Sometimes they're mixed. Mm-hmm. What is that like in your communities?
So for folks who are listening who aren't familiar with this,
let's give a little context.
The key features of mobile home parks historically, residents own their own home. The landlord owns the dirt underneath, and the resident pays lot rent every month to use our dirt and our infrastructure, right? And that is kind of the key to the business model. That's why these assets have performed so well during COVID. They performed so well during the last recession in 08 and 09 because our tenants have skin in the game, right? They're bought in. They're homeowners. They don't own the land, or they own a home. Our typical tenant stays for 12 years, and they raise their family in that home. They've customized the home. They own it. They've got skin in the game, and they don't want to leave. So they are highly incentivized to pay rent.
Right.
So that is the model that we prefer. There are some operators who've gone towards more of a rental model where the landlord will own the home and rent it out. At that point, it's essentially a horizontal apartment building.
Right.
And then you lose the key feature that makes mobile home parks so special, right? So for me, I'd rather forego some of that incremental cash flow and have super stable tenants who are bought into the communities as homeowners and act with pride of ownership.
Gotcha. So in a scenario where you would actually, acquire a community that maybe has a mix of that or something like that, would you then try to find new buyers for the home? Let's say you bought a community where it was, the majority of tenant-owned homes, where people own their own homes, and then you had a handful of homes, or maybe you brought in new homes, or you developed some, added some, infill, those kind of things. is the goal to then, kind of turn it in that direction so that you will have all tenant owners?
Yes, that's our goal. And we typically, we first make offers to the existing tenants who are renters. Hey, do you want to buy your home? We can help you with financing. We'll come up with a financing package for them to become homeowners. If they choose not to take that option, then eventually when they filter out and leave, then we'll sell the home as a for sale home.
Gotcha. It's amazing. I'm fascinated by this model. And like you said, it has become much more popular over the past couple of years. I mean, obviously, as you've seen, I've seen as well. And it's become something that is, gone much more mainstream, I would say.
So I would say it's a 180-degree flip where 15 years ago, this was completely non-institutional. And it's become slowly more institutional to the point now where every deal we're on, there's 10 other institutional backed players chasing it.
Wow.
And think of any big private equity group, the Carlyle Group, Blackstone, Apollo, TPG, you name it. All the big groups have strategies and they're chasing mobile home parks because they've seen how good the performance is. But what you have is a lot of capital chasing not a lot of deals, and prices are getting bid up to an extreme. And so one thing I would convey to you and your listeners is don't believe the hype. If you're reading stuff online that this is the last unexplored asset class and you're going to buy these parks at 8 caps and you're going to hit a home run off market, it's like, that's not what I'm seeing. I'm out there chasing deals all the time. Most of my deals are off market and we are not picking them up cheap. We are paying a premium to buy these assets because they're in limited supply. They're going to perform great. We have a long-term thesis. The demographic trends support what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And so we're paying a premium to buy these assets, but it's not like it was 20 years ago.
Wow. And you mentioned the fact that there is a shortage of supply of affordable housing. Is there? I mean, typically speaking, when that type of scenario occurs, there's development that's happening to kind of meet that demand. Do you see that happening within the manufactured housing community as well?
I do, and it is kind of little known and little talked about. We'll put it this way: most of the parks you see these days were built in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, kind of these legacy assets that were built as cheap housing to house America's post-World War II population boom, right? That's when these things were built. And then you haven't seen a lot of these develop over the past 30 years because they were so stigmatized, exactly as you said, right? Which city council wants a new trailer park in there?
Right.
It was a hard pitch.
Mm-hmm.
What we're seeing now is the tide is turning. There's so much demand for affordable housing. In many cities you go to, that is, the top political issue. People can't afford to live here anymore, right? It is a real issue. This is an immediate solution that's right here. And the product is so much better now, right? A manufactured home today looks beautiful. Like I said, granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, gas fireplace, jacuzzi tub. I mean, the thing is great. And so you are seeing a handful of sophisticated players starting to build new parks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we ourselves are starting to experiment with it. And I think you're going to see a wave of new development.
Gotcha. Is there a lot of red tape involved with that?
Sure. It's not easy. I mean, no development is easy, right?
Yeah, of course.
Buying existing assets is so much easier than trying to build one from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think within the world of development, you're still climbing an uphill political battle to explain what is this? Like, it's not your grandmother's trailer park, right? No meth labs here. And you have to educate and explain, what are we actually building and who are we serving? We're providing high quality housing for working families in your community.
Yeah. That's incredible. And I just want to kind of revisit that point that you made. This is an incredible thing that you're doing for the communities themselves and for the residents. I mean, it should not be looked in any other direction. What are some of the things, I mean, now that you've kind of turned your life in a different direction through this over the past several years, what are some of the things that you're now doing that you weren't doing before when you were working kind of in a corporate setting?
You know, on the personal level?
Yeah, personal level.
Well, I pray, I meditate. I've got a 5-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son who I spend as much time with as I possibly can. I try to be the best husband I can be. It's not easy. It takes constant work to be the spouse and partner you want to be. And I'm trying to surf every 2 weeks on Thursday mornings.
Surf?
Because, surf. My wife has explained to me, weekends are family time. Don't take off on the weekend to surf. If you want to carve that out as your priority, carve it out of your work week. You control your work week. You don't have a boss. Right. So that was like a paradigm shift for me. I work a lot. I love to work. I love my job. It's hard. I'm like, no, I don't want to carve out work time. But she was right. She put it on me. So I try to wake up at 5 a.m. every other Thursday and go surfing in Pacifica, near where I live.
That's awesome. That's very cool.
How about you? What the Yona Weiss behind the camera? What do you do when you in your free time now that you control your life and your schedule?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I wish I had a place to surf. I never surf, although I do have a good friend, Rabbi Yom Tov Glazer, who's the surfing rabbi, and he grew up in Southern California, also made famous for that. But I have 6 kids, so I try to spend as much time as I can with them. It's challenging, right? Everyone's on a different schedule, especially the older ones, and I enjoy to cook, believe it or not. Some free time that I have, that if I'm not doing anything else, which I spend obviously a lot of time on LinkedIn, social media, just networking and doing all kinds of stuff like that. I love to network, whether it's in person or online. But cooking, I would say that's probably like my number one thing. If I don't have anything to do and I'm just like, I'm gonna spend some time with my wife, we'll do something together, or I'll just make something and make it for my kids, make it for my family. That's I would say that's my, like, if I have a hobby, that's probably it. I like.
We share it. You should have seen what I cooked up last night.
Okay.
I decided to make. I leftover wine after our Sabbath, and I said I'm going to make a lamb ragu, like a bolognese style ragu. And I planned it. I started throwing in the celery and the carrots and the garlic and the wine and the lamb, and I had some frozen brisket. I threw in the brisket and I had some lamb necks. Yeah, I'm the same way. If I like that, for me is a form of creative expression.
Yeah, 100%. That's awesome. I like to, exercise a little bit too. My kids love to rollerblade. So, I got them all rollerblades. I grew up playing hockey and rollerblading a lot. So, just kind of sharing that passion with them. And my 6-year-old, who's my youngest, is the best out of everyone. He just he's like a gym.
Fearless?
Yeah, he's totally fearless.
Awesome.
And he was really one of the first ones. He actually started rollerblading when he was like 2. Like, he just put on his brother's skates one day, like hanging on the couch, and we just saw him, like, wow, he got to get him his own pair.
Wow.
That was a lot of fun. Cool. But yeah, Dan, I want to transition now to the final 4. This is the segment of our show where we ask 4 questions to all our guests. And I'd love to hear from you. What is the worst job that you ever had?
Can I name names?
It's up to you.
Okay, I'm gonna name an agency. I don't want to name a name. I'm gonna name an agency. Have you ever heard of the Office of the Director of National Intelligence?
No, but it sounds something official.
Official. So 9/11 happened, right? Congress did a big investigation. They said it was due to intelligence failure. And they said, we need to set up the Office of the Director of National Intelligence to make sure the FBI and the CIA and the NSA all talk to each other. Mm-hmm. And so when I worked in government, I first worked as a diplomat, and then I went to work in the DNI, which is supposedly overseeing the intelligence community. And I had a boring clerical job in a boring clerical agency. I was a bureaucrat within an extra layer of bureaucracy over a bunch of other bureaucracies. And to be really honest, there's a point where I got so depressed I didn't want to get out of bed and go to work.
Like, nobody does anything and you're not doing anything.
Yeah, and my job is meaningless. Like, I feel like I have certain talents that are within me and none of them are being put to use. And mm-hmm. I thankfully have not been a depressive person, but I hit a point in my life through those circumstances, I did not want to get out of bed and go to work. And it was a real wake-up call. You gotta find your passions and harness them.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a clear message for anyone. If you wake up in the morning, or you don't want to wake up and get out of bed in the morning and go to work,
yeah,
you got to find yourself something else to do.
Yeah, that was a clear one. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. So I want to ask you, what is a book that you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
I'm going to name a book that I read 2 months ago. It's a cookbook.
Okay.
By Yotam Ottolenghi, Israeli chef, who has gotten really into vegan and vegetarian cooking. And this is one of his vegan cookbooks. I'm not a vegan. I eat a lot of meat. But he has this vegan cookbook. And he has a recipe for a vegetarian, like, beef ragu. And the ground beef is made out of lentil. And the flavor comes from mushroom and soy and miso and coconut oil to create like a fat. And I ate this thing, and it was a revelation. It was as delicious as eating any animal I've ever eaten, but so good for the earth, right? And no creature was harmed in the eating of this thing. And so I'm a meat eater. I love to eat meat, but literally it was like eating that dish was a paradigm shift.
Wow. That's amazing. And you could make it yourself. I mean, it sounds like...
Yeah. I'll snap a photo of the recipe and I'll email it to you. It's delicious. It'll change your thought about what vegan food can be.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, my mother's actually vegan and has been for many years, but I enjoy meat. I enjoy vegetarian. My wife likes to be very healthy as well, so we do a lot of vegetarian stuff. But I've yet to find anything that has really, the whole goal of that, I think, to kind of get people off of meat in, I guess the vegan community, is to make products that are, comparable, or at least as tasty,
Exactly. You got to hit that spot, right? There's something that meat does for the senses that's primal, right? It hits these deep caveman pleasure sensors. And I'm telling you, when I had this lentil dish, it hit them. So I'm going to send you the recipe.
That's awesome. Okay, listen, that's an incredible paradigm. I mean, listen, we've had people talk about, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and the 4-hour work week, and E-Myth Revisited.
Yeah, I don't read any of that stuff,
man. This is awesome. It's probably the best answer I've ever had. Third question for you: what is a skill or talent that you would like to learn?
Can I tell you something ridiculous?
Open forum.
I'm probably going to open myself up to widespread mockery on the internet, but I'm going to be brave here. Okay. I love riding horses. It is such an amazing experience to ride on a horse and connect with a beautiful animal. And I'm learning archery. I love archery. Okay. It's so cool to pull back a bow and an arrow and use your concentration to try and hit a target. And so what I want to do is to combine those two skills and to learn horseback archery, which is a thing. And you can find teachers to teach you horseback archery, and you essentially become like a mounted warrior from the Middle Ages.
Right, exactly.
So I want to live my Robin Hood dream. That's my skill.
You're going to be the mounted warrior.
Yes. That's my dream.
Amazing. And fourth and final question is, what does success mean to you?
Yona, can I flip it on you and ask you? You seem like a very principled person who's had a kind of unique life path, and I'd be really curious to hear your answer to that, and then I'll think about mine.
Okay, yeah, sure. I mean, if you want to go back and listen to episode, I think 21, we did our own final four where I shared my 4 answers. So anyone listener wants to check that out. I don't even remember what I said then, because this answer does change, from time to time, and as time goes on. But I'd say what comes to mind right now, what success means to me at this moment, is living a fulfilled life. And so that seems kind of broad and, kind of, ingenuous. But what I mean by that is, I want every day to feel like that day I accomplished what I was set out to live in this life to do. And so that's very profound. And you have to spend a lot of time actually thinking about what it is to you. And each person is different. But to me, what that means is that I wake up in the morning and I'm excited for life. I'm excited what the day brings me. And then at the end of the day, I'm fulfilled, that I believe that I've actually accomplished something. And so success is a journey in my mind. And so that's why I say it changes from time to time. But at that moment, wherever you're at, if you feel like you're living a successful life, that means that each day has been accomplished. And this is something that, it comes from, our tradition, that, Abraham, Avram Avinu, that, he was said that Hashem Beirach es Avram Bakol, that God blessed Abraham with everything. And, he Ba Bayomim, he came with his days. And that verse tells us that he came with his days, meaning that each and every single day, he was able to testify that he accomplished what he was set in his life to do. And so we're only going to be asked at the end of our days, right? Did we live up to our own potential, right? We're not meant to be anyone else besides ourselves. So for me, that's what success is, that I know that I'm living up to my potential or the best of my ability for that day. And that should be changing from day to day to be growing.
Wow, I'm very inspired. I'm so glad I asked you that. Wow. So with that as inspiration, I sat down about 2 months ago to define my life purpose and how I define success. I never really done it before. And I realized it was time, because I'm spending too much time chasing shiny objects and not spending my days the way I want to spend them, right? The days of our lives. And so what I came up with and what I've been reflecting on every morning is I want to serve God, to spread light in this world, to spread love in this world, and to try to heal the world through my actions, large and small.
There you go. That's really reflects, very much what I share as well. And very, very well said. So I bless you with continued success on that journey.
Man, thank you. Same to you.
And much to you. But before we go, I'd like to ask our listeners where people can find you or reach out to you. But I forgot to ask you, and I really meant to at the beginning of the episode, is what is the 3 pillars of 3-pillar communities?
Yona, you might be the only person who's ever interviewed me who might actually know the answer.
I probably do.
So this is the Wise Advice podcast. I think you know the answer. Can you please, as a man who's more learned than I am in the Jewish tradition, explain to the listeners out there what are the 3 pillars on which the world stands in Jewish learning?
So I assume what you're referring to is what it says in the teachers' ethics of our fathers, right? The teaching of their fathers that the world stands on three pillars, which are Torah, Avoda, and Gimilut Chasadim, which means, right, teaching, right, the Torah, the Bible, which is learning and understanding, Avoda, which is service, divine service, which, like you mentioned, is the service of the heart, is love, and Gimilut Chasadim, which is giving and charity. And so those are the three pillars which the whole world stands. So I assume that's what you guys founded your communities on, your company, but it's nice to hear.
Thank you for explaining it more beautifully than I could have. And that's what it's about for us, right? Like, we started a business in order to bring our intentions into the world, right? We have a certain purpose in our life, why we think we're on this earth, and we want to manifest it into this world. We have this incredible opportunity as real estate entrepreneurs to change the world, buy communities and change them, change my investors' lives, put capital in certain places, and be the people we want to be. Do I live up to it every day? No. Sometimes I fall on my face, but I try and get better and improve. And our aspiration is to heal the world through this business that we're running.
That's awesome.
And you know what? I think when you do that, the money comes. I'm not too worried about the money. Like, we'll try and do the right thing, and the money will come.
Well, I'm sure that's the case. You probably wouldn't be doing it if that. I mean, obviously, it's a great thing to do. It's great to live an altruistic, philanthropic life. But with every business should be a business and should run as a business and be successful like a business as well. So much success to you. So the final question really asking is, where can our listeners find you or reach out to you if they choose to?
3pillarcommunities.com. 3 is spelled out, THREE, pillar, no S on it, just one pillar, communities.com. And you'll see a little box on the upper right to join our mailing list. I would love to connect.
Awesome. Amazing. So thank you again. It's been a pleasure. It really has. A wonderful conversation. I enjoyed this. It's definitely, I say this quite often, but this is probably one of the best conversations I've had. And I meet it every time.
I feel the same way. I feel we connected across the Zoom screen on the same spiritual level. So it's so fun to talk about real estate and business and the purpose of life. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. And to our listeners, remember, the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM, a connection request, Yona Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.